Hi, friends. Today I'm talking to Joelle of Bastion and Brews. Her dog Bastion uses buttons and was just featured in People magazine as the world's cutest rescue dog. We chat about their origin story together, first words, biggest challenges, surprising communications, and of course, a little bit of controversy. Join us for a fascinating dive into what their journey with buttons has been like.
Okay.
Rating myself because my friend Chelsea calls this my lesbian hat, and I don't care. I'm wearing it anyway. I love it.
I think it's really cute. I like seeing the little stripes on the side. Those are adorable.
Oh, I feel like they're too. I don't know. I don't want them in front, but
Whatever you want. Okay. So we're recording. We're good. I've got the stories. All right. Hello, Joelle. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm really excited to be talking about everything fashion, about your story, about how you got involved with Fluent Pet. And also, you look adorable, and your backdrop is equally adorable.
this is
So thank you.
Kylie, painted by Mackenzie from His Dog Stuff.
Amazing. It's so cute. That's a really cute expression on her face, too. She's got one lip up. Yeah.
That was very much Kylie with the "Kaka" sound that she used to.
Oh, like when they see birds and they do the little.
Yeah, but she would just do that all the time. She was such a chirper talker. One of my favorite things about Kylie was still like her meow, and we'll go back and watch YouTube videos of her, and the comments on her are always so funny. They're like, "This cat smoked 40 years," or the comments on her voice are always very entertaining.
I love that. So, why don't we get started by having you tell us how you got started with buttons, who you started buttons with, and why?
Absolutely. So I remember discovering the buttons back in, I think it was October 2019, when I saw the Christina Hunger article come out. I forget where it was, maybe People magazine or something. And even working in special education myself, I believed that this was something magical that she was able to do because she had special training as a speech language pathologist. And so I remember following her and being like, "Oh my God, this is so cool. This is like a dream. I want to be able to do this." And then I just didn't have the confidence to start it myself. So fast forward to 2020, the pandemic is starting, and I decided to make a TikTok account just to see what was going on because now we're spending so much time home. And I saw you and Bunny pop up in my news feed, and that was it. And then I became obsessed. I started going back through your videos, and I'm like, who is Alexis Devine and what is because again, this was like an untouchable thing that Christina Hunger was only able to do because she had the speech language pathologist credentials. So when I started to get to know you more, I was like, she's an artist and she's a model and she does all these cool things. And I'm creative and I work in special education, and there's absolutely no reason why I can't do this also. So I think it was the end of March that I put them in my shopping cart on Amazon, and it wasn't until the end of May that I actually went through and I said, screw it, I'm buying them. So I've been working from home. I have been spending a lot of time with Bastion, and right around his birthday, I got the buttons. And I remember we had a bunch of friends outside and we were all like social distancing, having a drink, and they were like, go upstairs and go get those buttons because I was still intimidated. I still hadn't opened the box yet. So I go up and I just record treat on one button, and I put it down, and it becomes a game where we're all like standing around, we're going like, hit the button. And he is just having the best time. He's running around, jumping, he's going to each person and getting the snacks. And he seemed to pick it up really fast. The next day, he was independently pressing it on his own. So I said, okay, we can't just have a treat button. This is out of control. So I immediately, the next day, gave him a walk and an outside button. And it seems like it clicked immediately. Like the second he realized that, wait a second, I can hit these buttons and I get to choose when I get a snack, when I go outside, and when we get to go for a walk, it was like game over. Just everything seemed to fall in line.
That's amazing. So it was meaningful for both of you almost immediately. There wasn't
It
a
was.
lag period because I feel like for a lot of people, there's, it takes us so long to get them to press it. And then they're not pressing independently. And like, how do we get from step A to step C, which is where we want to be, is having meaningful conversations. But from what you're telling me, it sounds like Bastion immediately knew that he could control outcomes by pressing the buttons himself.
It seemed like that. Yeah. Granted, it was only the next day, but he got so excited because I got really excited too. So now there's two people that are, there's a dog and the human being like, yes, let's go. So I just remember him hitting the walk button. And I think I have this on video somewhere. I'll have to find the video. But I remember him hitting the walk button, and I'm like, do you want to go for a walk? And to see him pop up, he's yes.
Yeah.
And then I got him all hyped up, and then he went over and smashed it again. Yes, let's do this. And I think that was really what got him so excited. So much of his life early on was unpredictable and stressful that my whole goal had been about creating predictability, routine, and a safe environment for him. And I think I did a pretty good job with that with the tools I had. But when I introduced the buttons, the narrative completely flipped because now he had agency and when these things happened. And so it wasn't about just anticipating and predicting when he was going to be able to do these things. It was about when he wants to. Because let's face it, sometimes you have to go to the bathroom more than once a day, and sometimes you want to eat more than once, or I'm sorry, more than twice, or not at all. There's days where I'm just not feeling it. I'm not hungry at all. So it's really been a game changer in our relationship now that he can speak on his own behalf.
That's amazing. So you said that his life until he came to you had been full of a lot of unpredictability. Can you tell us a little bit about that and what that means and where his origin story?
So Bastion, the facts that I know about Bastion are that he was rescued from Hurricane Florence. He was found wading in the floodwaters with his sister, and I believe that was in North Carolina. They shipped him to a shelter in Georgia where he got some medical care, and he was in a kill shelter. Not long after, Burlington County Animal Alliance, which is a rescue in New Jersey, they came around and they rescued a bunch of the Hurricane Florence dogs and shipped them up to New Jersey. I had been looking for a little scrappy terrier and I came across his profile, and I had been looking for a black dog. I was adamant that I wanted a black scrappy dog that looked just like my Kylie, like Kylie, but and I found his photo, and the photo was like blurry, but there was something about his eyes that they just seemed so soulful. And I said, this poor dog looks so sad. I want this puppy. And I put in an application, and they ended up contacting me and saying that like we were preliminarily approved, but the rescue event was on Saturday and I had to go to New Jersey, which I would have been excited about, except that I had my best friend's wedding in New Hampshire, which is nowhere near New Jersey. And I wasn't going to be able to explain to my friends, I'm sorry, I'm not coming to your wedding. I'm going to get a dog, or vice versa. I tried to ask them to hold him, but of course, they're in the business of making space for new dogs, not holding dogs for people that are going away. And so they said, I'm sorry, we can't hold him for you. And the whole weekend I spent thinking about this cute dog, and I showed photos of him to my friends that weekend, and just resigned myself to the fact that it just wasn't meant to be because I was too far away. So by the end of the weekend, I got back to Long Island, and that Monday, I got a text from his foster mom saying that he was the only dog not adopted at the rescue event. So his sister, all the other dogs that had been shipped up from Hurricane Florence had been rescued except for him. And I really think it comes down to, I truly believe that people look for this love at first sight moment where the dog jumps up and licks their face and they can walk away saying, the dog chose me, I didn't choose them. And that wasn't Bastion. Bastion was shut down. He was scared. He was not very forthcoming. And I could see him being overlooked because he's not going to be the one to throw himself out there and jump into someone's arms. Worked out in my favor because that week I got to drive to New Jersey and go pick him up.
That's amazing. I love that story so much. And how far he's come, and just because I know you personally and I know him personally, he's just come so far, and he's such an amazing dog and you're such an amazing team.
Thank you.
Yeah. How did Kylie respond to Bastion coming home?
So one of I actually wanted a bigger dog. I wanted a dog that was between 20 and 30 pounds. But because Hallie and Kylie, the littermate kitties, they were both 12 years old and between 9 and 12 pounds, I didn't think it was fair to bring a larger dog into the household that was going to bother them. I chose Bastion because it said he was 12 pounds, and when we met him, he was actually closer to 9 pounds. But we brought him in the house. We kept him separated from the cats initially. And then I taught him early on to leave the cats alone. And so for the most part, he respected it. He became a little bit of an enforcer, a rule enforcer for Hallie, because Hallie was always breaking rules. She was on areas she shouldn't be. She was eating things she shouldn't eat. And all he had to hear was my mom yell at him, and he'd start running for her. And not like to hurt her. He just wanted to bark at her until she stopped whatever she was doing. He was closest with her for a while. And then before she passed away, he seemed to notice that she was having difficulty walking, which came on very suddenly. Hallie had gone to the vet back in February and she got a clean bill of health. Everything came back fine. And then fast forward to April, and she just started declining rapidly. She was meowing unable to carry herself. And
Mm.
Bastion was visibly shaken. He was following her around, smelling her, and then he went over and hit walk concerned. At that time, Bastion was still a little bit more reactive to guests coming in the house. So when we had the vet come to say goodbye, we did put him outside. And unfortunately, he did not ever get to say goodbye to her, which was hard because then months later, she never came to the cabin with us. We were constantly bringing Kylie back and forth, but Hallie could not handle the car in any way, shape, or form. Even taking her to the vet meant that she was getting put on oxygen, and the vet was literally a 3-minute car ride. We go up to the cabin and he's asking about her while we're at the cabin. Then we get back to the house and he on Long Island, and now he's asking about her on Long Island. And it was very interesting. Like he had this like object permanence. Oh, seemingly he had object permanence because now we're back on Long Island and he's okay. Hallie's never at the cabin, but she should be here on Long Island because that's where we left her, except that she wasn't here anymore. It took about a year before he stopped asking about it took about a year until he stopped asking about Hallie. So then in all of that, Kylie started spending a lot more time upstairs. And she was spending time in our bed. She was spending time with Bastion. They seemingly became fast friends after Hallie's passing. And that was right around like when the buttons started to become more of a thing. And Kylie was constantly like, she never used the buttons herself, but she would seemingly, I shouldn't say that. She did use the buttons occasionally herself, but she seemed to care what the buttons were saying when Bastion was using them. So she'd hear treat and she'd come running from across the house because she knew that her food was in order. So I think one of the most interesting, which is where I'm looking for, the big difference between Hallie passing and Kylie passing was that
Mm.
Bastion was there when Kylie passed. He was able to say goodbye to her. And the day that she passed, that evening, he kept saying, "Where cat, look cat, look cat." And he was looking to the spot where she had been put to sleep. And he has not once since she passed asked for her again. And so I think that there's something
Interesting.
to be said for animals being present when their partners or their family members or significant others pass away.
That's really powerful and really beautiful. It must have been a little bit bittersweet to have him talking about either of them after the fact, right?
Yeah, it's really sweet in that you don't realize how much it does affect them and how long they're thinking about it afterwards. Like him asking about Hallie in September when she had passed away in April was not something that would have even crossed my mind. Nor would I have thought that he'd be asking or saying, "Look, Kylie," in the same direction that she passed away 6 hours earlier that day. So that was very, I don't know, just from an observation standpoint, it's very powerful.
Did those experiences change the way you think about how dogs experience the world?
It does. Yeah. I think that, especially coming back from a background of psychology and neuroscience, there's so much limited information that exists on cognitive studies on canines and just cats and animals in general, because everything has to be done in a lab under controlled condition. And there's so much out there that we don't know because we don't have a strong foundation for testing it. And while I can't say for certain that things are, that it is what I'm saying it is, my observations definitely lead me to believe that there's so much more there than we're able to measure.
That's really cool. I agree with you wholeheartedly. So back to the buttons for a bit. Was there, oh, I guess let me back up a bit. How did you go about choosing buttons to add after you saw that Bastion was engaged and interested? And you had these three buttons. You had, what was it, treat, outside, and walk. And he's using them in contextually appropriate ways. He's excited about it. You're excited about it. How did you go about choosing words after that? And then my follow-up question to that is, what was a word that was a critical breakthrough for the two of you where you were like, oh, this is really important. This is big. This is bigger than I thought it was going to be. This is not just a dog asking for the things that I could see with body language.
Oh, those are really good questions. So, as far as choosing our first words, I think a lot of it came from actually watching your account and
Hmm.
seeing what Bunny was using. And then I almost made a list of, okay, these are the words that we should introduce. And honestly, at first, it was what I wanted him to use. And there were buttons that he still doesn't use that are on his board. The fourth button we put down was play. And yeah, he uses it occasionally, but generally he just goes and gets a toy. So he could show us that he wants to play. He brings me a platy, he brings me a frisbee. He's not asking me to go play with those things. So there's definitely some buttons that I chose for myself selfishly versus
Mm-hmm.
that I thought there was something that he would want. I think that putting some of the names down really was a game changer because now you're talking about people that may or may not be in the room. And just like the cats, Bastion has asked for other individuals. He's asked for our dog friends upstate. I think he's asked for Parker before and Delmer. It's just so funny to see them potentially thinking about people and animal friends that aren't even present in the room. So I think that anything that they can say with the buttons that they can't say with body language, I find increasingly fascinating. That, and again, like time, spatial things that people say that our dogs are not capable of, theory of mind, things like that. There's been so many times where he's done things that I'm like, he absolutely knows exactly what he's doing. And meanwhile, research says he can't be doing that on purpose.
Yeah. That is so cool. So how many buttons I was going to say do you, but does Bastion have now?
About 100. It's
Okay.
about 100, give or take.
Okay. And what would you say are his favorite words right now?
He loves the get 'em button, which we introduced when we brought
Yeah.
Wesley home. So Bastion was
Oh,
taught not to bother the cats when I brought him home. The cats are 12 years old. He needs to learn to leave them alone. So this way they're not upset by what's the word I'm looking for? Uh,
exuberance.
Yeah, exactly. Like they did not need that nonsense at that age.
Yeah.
Now, fast forward to bring Wesley home at 8 weeks old, and Wesley is chasing him, jumping on him, running through his legs. I would feed Bastion, and Bastion would be eating, and Wesley would come between his legs and start eating on top of him. And so I wanted Bastion to recognize that he couldn't go after the original cats, but like he does not need to tolerate this nonsense. And
Oh,
he's still very gentle. I knew he wasn't going to hurt Wesley, so I gave him
yeah.
a get him button, and I would be like, "Go get him, go get him," and he would get up and go over and swat him or chase him. And Wesley absolutely loves it. I think Wesley likes the get him button even more than Bastion does because Wesley loves to be chased and wants to swat Bastion back. So he really likes that lately. He likes his find it button. Originally, it was just for hiding treats, but sometimes I think it's like the get up button for me. He'll say, for a treat, and I don't move fast enough. He'll go over and hit find it treat. Like, you go find it. Go get me that treat. He loves his food words. He loves all of his outdoor, like walk, go, outside words. One thing that's really interesting lately is he keeps using his car button in a new way. And I don't know what he thinks it means, but it's usually before he asks to go for a walk. So he'll hit car walk. And I'm like,
Huh.
I don't understand what this means. So that's my current mystery that I'm trying to solve.
Oh, the first thing that popped into my mind, this is something that I've been sensing that Otter wants too, is novelty in walks. Like we have the circuits that we do, we go on the same trails, we go to the same places. And I have a feeling, and it's just a feeling that, sorry. Okay. And this is just a
Just a
feeling,
feeling.
just a feeling that Otter wants to go to some novel places and explore some new scents, some new sights, some new smells. Wait, I already said scents. Some new sights, smells, sounds. So maybe car walk means get in the car, take me to someplace totally new for a little bit of novelty, which is highly reinforcing to both humans and non.
That's
Just a
interesting you
speculation.
say that. Because over the summer, I was doing that. And I
Mm,
stopped doing it so much lately because I get home and it's 4 o'clock already and I just want to walk him and
dark.
go home. Yeah.
Yeah.
For the summer, I would go, everything was an adventure. I would go get coffee and then be like, we're getting coffee. Let's go for a walk around this neighborhood. And
Yeah.
it was just special for both of us. And I wonder if that's what he's missing is that it's the lack of, what's the word I'm like, yeah.
Yeah. Maybe.
Right now I'm in a boot, so we're not walking too far anyway, but I guess it doesn't
Yeah.
matter if we walk far or
Yeah. So let's see here. Okay. So the communications you were talking about around your elderly cats were very powerful, very profound communications. Are there other communications that have been equally profound or surprising, or communications that have made you laugh or that have really reframed how you think about how dogs think? I'd love to hear about some of those.
So there's been a few. In April of this year, he became absolutely obsessed with talking about the neighbor dog from the cabin upstate. And we had not seen that dog. Her name's Charlotte. We had not seen Charlotte since August of the previous year. So August 2023, we see Charlotte. No, August 2024, we see Charlotte. Now it's um April 2025, and suddenly Bastion cannot stop talking about Charlotte. He is like, where's Charlotte? Want friends? Charlotte this, Charlotte that. To the point where I'm now texting my neighbors up there being like, is everything okay with Charlotte? I don't know to what capacity can think outside of like their own heads. And I'm certainly not going to be accused of underestimating him. So I messaged them and they're like, yeah, Charlotte's fine. But she had historically had multiple health scares where
Mm.
I became concerned that like maybe he does know something that I don't know. So fast forward to thank God Charlotte's safe. He just truly was asking about her. And fortunately, that was, I think, April or May of this year. We were able to see her within a couple of weeks, and he was seemingly really excited to run into her. But I find it again fascinating that he was so concerned and asking about someone he hadn't seen in almost a year.
Yeah.
Um, we had another incident where a member of our household moved out and they came to get some of their things that I had put outside. And I asked if they wanted to see Bastion, and they said no. And then shortly after leaving, Bastion went outside and was sniffing the ground where all of those belongings had been and where those people had come and gotten the items. And when he
Mm.
came back inside, he hit where friend. And I said, another friend had been here. She's like, I'm right here. And he looks at her and he goes over and hits where stranger friends, like not you, the other one that used to live
Wow.
here. And that broke my heart because again, like he's trying to make sense of someone that used to be here was a permanent fixture and now
Yeah.
living here anymore. So I haven't posted
Wow.
that yet.
Yeah. Wow. That's so powerful.
And then
God,
every
it's
once in
just,
a while, when he combines words in a novel way, one of my favorites is still the Frisbee treat video where he sees the box and I know that shape.
and just for anyone who doesn't know what a Frisbee treat is,
It's a
what is
pizza,
it? It's
pizza,
a
yeah,
pizza
pizza
box.
pie.
Yeah. Yeah. Pizza pie. I love that one too. That was coming up in my mind. I was hoping that you'd mention that one.
And a fridge car is an ice cream truck. And the other day he
Yes.
walked me to they have food truck Fridays down the block from me, and there's a little church and all these food trucks pop up. He gets so excited. We're not usually here on Fridays, but when we are, he always wants to walk down there. And then he stands in front of all of them and goes over and sniffs each of them. I said, I wonder if he thinks that they all sell ice cream, or if he recognizes that that's a barbecue truck, that's a Caribbean truck, that is the ice cream truck.
Mm, yeah. He probably does. I'm sure that his nose is like going a million miles an hour. Just, oh wow, this one smells delicious. This one smells not so delicious.
Yeah.
But without having a name for all of them, he might call them all fridge car. Yeah.
Ours.
In the beginning, I know for me, my routine with the buttons was it was intense. Like I was constantly at the buttons modeling every single thing. And that's eased up now when I add new words. I spend a lot of time modeling and reinforcing those concepts. But I'm curious to hear what your daily routine with the buttons and Bastion looks like now.
A lot of times I'm really bad at modeling them, and more so when I'm on Long Island because the buttons are in the office and I'm like I spend a lot of time outside or at work or things like that. But I do find that when I spend time in the office, he's more apt to hit them. Even last night I had a friend over and he loves my friend Bridget. And so she's hanging out here and he goes over and he hits happy. And if we'd been hanging out somewhere else, there was no way he would have come upstairs and pressed anything.
Yeah.
When we're at the cabin, it's a lot easier to reinforce because they're in the same room as where we're all hanging out. They're in front of the fireplace by the back door. So it becomes more of a central point in our home and it's easier to model.
Is there a reason that they're in the office at the one place and not in the sort of communal living space?
It's just that there is no real communal living place in the apartment. It's like my bedroom, the kitchen, or the office.
I see. Yeah, that makes sense.
I do find that there's a direct correlation though between when I'm modeling and when he's using them. So if
Yeah.
I if I am not modeling as often, he is not pressing them as often. And a lot of times he will revert back to just being vocal himself. And he has a tendency to just be like, "Rrr, rrr, rrr," and he'll sit his butt in front of me and just look at me like I should know exactly what he's looking for. And sometimes if we're not near buttons, I'll do a guess and check model method. So earlier today, he sat in front of me and he's going, "Rrr, rrr, rrr," and I said, "Are you hungry?" And and I said, "Okay." So then I just went and got him So I don't make him use the buttons if he can communicate it otherwise, but sometimes he'll
Totally.
just keep growling at me and like he was trying to communicate something and I don't know what his like goofy sounds mean. So the buttons have
Yeah.
been helpful in clarifying. Even as far as over the summer, he asked for breakfast. I gave him breakfast and then he just sat in front of it and looked at me. I have no idea why you're not eating. You very succinctly asked for this. And I went over to the buttons and I said, "Do you want it hot? Do you want it outside?" And he hit
Mm.
outside. And the second
Oh,
he took his food outside and put it in front of the lake, he was like, "All right, we're good." And he ate his breakfast. Even as far as where he
amazing.
eats food, he's
Yeah.
more specific.
I love that. And I think about the average dog, maybe, gets its kibble twice a day. And there is so much choice around that we could offer. And there is a mountain of research now about the power of choice and agency. And even just moving the food outside. That's one more thing that this learner can control in his life to increase his state of welfare. And it's such a small thing and it's such a powerful thing. And it would have been really difficult, I imagine, for you to have gleaned that knowledge in any other way without the buttons.
And I keep thinking about if he hadn't been able to tell me that, I would have been like, is he sick? Does he
Mm,
not like the food? There's so many other variables that could have
yeah.
explained why he wasn't eating that were just completely squashed the second he was just like, no, I want it outside. And then he ate it and it was fine. So
Yeah. That's amazing.
I've also found that he doesn't like to eat. I used to feed him at 6 in the morning when I went to work, and then I would feed him again around 4 or 5 o'clock when I got home from work. And he would have opportunities to get snacks throughout the day with my mom and things like that. But with the buttons, I found actually, let me go back. We started feeding him farmer's dog and then Ollie and all these fresh dog foods. And I would put them out at 6 in the morning and I'd come home at 4 p.m. and find out that he hadn't even eaten them. And I have to throw them out
Hmm.
because they were fresh food. Can't just leave that out for 10 hours. I stopped and only started feeding him when he would ask for food. And what I found is that even when I'm home all day, he prefers to get his meals around like between 1 and 3 o'clock for the first
Mm.
one, and then again between 4 and 7 o'clock for the second one. So essentially, he's like an intermittent faster, which I find curious. And when I was talking to my friend Ashley, who's a scientist about this, she said that there's a tremendous amount of research about the benefits of intermittent fasting with dogs, and that dogs typically are intermittent fasters in their natural, like back in their natural environment. And so that's something that I wouldn't have known either if it weren't for the buttons.
Yeah,
I
that's really
you don't
interesting that
have
you say that. Bunny's the same way. There are so many flies right now. Sorry. If you see me like, "Rah!" it's because they're everywhere. I don't know where they're coming from.
This clip
Bunny,
makes it in.
what? Yeah, me too. Yes, epic. Yeah, Bunny's the same way. The power of modeling. You were talking about how it's sometimes hard to stay in that routine, but we've seen, I think, pretty much across the board that the more the human models, the more the learners engage in using the buttons. There's so much observational learning going on all of the time and imitative learning too, that the more we are able to be present and modeling the concepts that we believe our learners find important, the more they're going to be able to express those and willing to express those concepts to us.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I
So,
also think it's so important too when they accidentally hit something to reinforce what that means. So
yeah.
the other night I was in bed and Wesley must have fallen over onto his wet food button, and my butt flew out of bed, pulled the bowl out of the counter, opened up a brand new can of cat food for him, and he was just like looking around, what the heck is going on here? And then I started hitting the button to model, look, mom just gave you more wet food. And
Yeah.
I don't know. He reacts to the buttons, but he isn't pressing them on his own yet.
Yeah, I think some of those accidental presses are the most critical learning periods just because it's an opportunity to capitalize on something that wouldn't have ordinarily happened naturalistically. That's a great learning opportunity. So I love taking advantage of mistakes as learning opportunities. So when you're adding new words, how do you decide if a word makes it onto the board or not?
Ooh, that's a good question. I think it has to do with Bastion's reaction now because I find, and sometimes the best ideas I get are still from the community. One, I've seen some people introduce yesterday, today, tomorrow, and I've been modeling those verbally with Bastion, and I think that's going pretty well. Those are probably going to be like words introduced in the next week. And then another word that I saw Kelly and Delmer have is together. And
Mm.
I see Bastion trying to get my attention and get me to do things with him. So I think that a button to specify that will be really helpful. So for example, he has a doorbell that he can ring to come back inside. So if I let him outside in the morning and I go back upstairs and I'm making my coffee and doing other things, he can go over and hit the doorbell and I'll come downstairs and open the door back up and let him in. Sorry, I have a cold.
Aw.
And one of the things that has been happening recently, and recently it's been happening for a long time, is that he will hit the doorbell, and then when I come to open the door, he'll wag his little tail and get into a play position. Follow me outside. I want to play with you. And I think that that's his way of communicating, hey, I want to play together. I want you to come out with me, not me to come inside. And it's so clever how he is now utilizing the doorbell to, because he knows I'm going to come to the door when he hits the doorbell. I just saw the fly go by.
There's so many. It's making me insane. They're
Um,
having a full party, like right here.
I have to send you a video after this because literally I just had a video from like this day in history multiple years ago of we had a fly infestation and I was like, what the hell was going on? It's just so coincidental. So sorry. So I find it so incredibly clever that he's realized the doorbell isn't just to let him in, but it's someone has to come to the door to open it and he can now get them to come outside with him too. And so I
Yeah.
think a together button would particularly be powerful for him because he is very affectionate. He wants to spend time with me and he doesn't like when I go out without him or do things without him.
I love that. What's the last button you added to your board?
Ooh. We started modeling bug because we had a we had a moth infestation that was like out of control back in I think it was June, May or June. And I have another funny video that I haven't even edited yet that I have to put up where Keely, Alpha Mayor's mom, was recommending this like electric fly swatter. And so I went and got one. She brought hers with us and we're like going around like ninjas, like swatting the moths. And
I
I forget,
literally just ordered one of those today.
Al went over and hit crunchy because they were going zzz. And then I'm like, yeah, we're almost done. And then Bastion goes over and hits all done. They weren't a fan of those, but I don't know. It
Oh,
was just very funny. But in any case, we added bug because we had a lot of those. Wesley was
yeah.
eating them at one point. So
I wish my dogs would eat the bugs because living in the cabin off grid, there are plenty of bugs. I had a similar moth infestation at the end of last summer, and it was like, it was insane. I'd be sitting in the dark looking at my phone, and there would just be like 10 moths circling my phone. And I was like, I can't live like this. This is insane.
it was I'd be like I'd think I'd got them all and then I'd come back home and I get a notification on the camera for Bastion's buttons and you'd see a moth fly by the buttons. No. And then you can't do anything about it because you're not there for a full week. So
Yeah,
I'm just
yeah,
like letting
yeah,
them party and going up and hoping that I can tackle it again.
yeah. Hopefully, you are past the worst of that. I am in the thick of it currently, it appears, but that is neither here nor there.
And you should
Um,
introduce that bug button.
I should. I thought about, speaking of bugs, Diane Keck, neuro dog training, was visiting. It was last summer, I think, and we had a wasp or a hornet. I don't know which, the yellowtail. I don't know, the ones with the longer, whatever. They were stingy beasts, and we had 50 of them. And they were in the house, and they were all in a window. And Diane's son was like, "I think you've got a wasp problem." And I was like, "Nah, it's just a few outside." And then I came inside, there was like 50 in a window.
I
And
remember that video.
Diane was modeling bug, yuck a lot. And then I meant to add a bug button and never got around to it, but it seems like now is the time. Seems like now is the time. Okay, so let's talk about board organization. How roughly is your board organized, and how has your thinking about how it should be organized evolved over the last 5, 6 years?
It is roughly modeled in the Fitzgerald key that Fluent Pet had recommended, and a big part of that is because I went by the existing research when I started building the board. However, I have moved a couple of things around over time to make more space and gaps in the board for Bastion to move around because he has that scratchy terrier like paw. A lot of times I find that if there's a button in the middle of the board, he will hit it in addition to the button surrounding it. So if you, for example, we used to have the boat button in the center of car, walk, outside, go. And
Mhm.
then everything became car, boat, walk, boat, outside boat. He
Mhm.
started combining everything because not because it was a clever idea, but because he was sloppy. So
Yeah.
yeah, he would scratch multiple buttons at once. So I've taken a lot of the center buttons out and moved them around. And in addition, I'm going to show you my board now. I have taken the soft tiles and put them in between because one, I think that they're pretty. And secondly, I think that having the buttons connected makes them move around less. It gives Bastion a landing pad to walk across. And two, Wesley
Mm.
keeps laying on the buttons and activating them. So now Wesley doesn't lay on them as much because he has spaces built in to sit down and lay down. So
Amazing. I think that's almost directly from how Morgan talks about creating a board for a cat is give
mm,
them empty, soft spaces to lay, and they will start using a variety of body parts to, it'll seem like they're pressing accidentally, but a lot of cats will use their shoulders. And if they have those empty spaces there, and sounds like that works out really well for Bastion too. So that's awesome.
it does. And we still have the old hardtop tiles. They hold the buttons a little bit tighter. But in some circumstances, I know that those aren't something that Flume Pen is currently making anymore, which I understand that some of the tops would fall off and stuff. The soft ones are much nicer. But I do have a couple of soft top ones. The ones that are dark blue are actually
Mm.
painted with acrylic chalk paint so
Oh,
that they hold the buttons tighter also, similar to the hardtop tiles.
I
And so
see.
that's my like method for modifying the soft top tiles so that Bastion cannot flip them across the room. And
Amazing.
we actually went to visit Flint from Flint Can Talk, the French speaking cat, over the
Yeah.
summer.
Oh,
And
that's right. You were in Paris.
yes, and first of all, Eloise showed Bastion immediately where the treat button was, and then he went nuts. And he was just throwing her buttons across the room. And it became a game because she's trying to put them on the board as fast as he's throwing them across the room, asking for snacks. But he really liked whatever the French snacks she had there were. But it was just became very funny. So the soft top tiles are just not great for dogs like Bastion.
That's good to know. Great to know. Great feedback. So, what has the reaction been from friends, family, strangers, and how has that evolved over time?
We've been met with a mix of skepticism and absolute complete belief from friends and family. You'll have people that come in and like Bastion will just run across the board and hit something on accident and they're like, "No, he meant it. He absolutely did." And I'm like, "I think that he just tripped or maybe a button was in the wrong spot and fell out of the board. I don't know, we'll see." And then there's people that come in and he's like repeatedly making the same request to go outside and then spinning in front of the door and very clearly like body language is synchronous with the action that he's doing. And they're still like, "Yeah, I don't know if I believe any of this." And it's my mug says science doesn't give a heck what you believe because
Yeah, nice.
really it's I don't care. I'm not trying to prove anything to you. I'm trying to
Yeah.
have a relationship with my dog. So most people over time, even the skeptics have eventually come around and been like, "Wait a second. He said that and then he went and did this." I think that people have come around a tremendous amount since then.
Mhm.
And I still fall somewhere in the middle. I have a hard time believing that everything, a back paw press or certain things are what is it like intentional. I think that I look for a lot of more intentionality and purpose behind his presses,
Yeah.
but I think that for it's going to look different for all learners.
Yeah, that's a great point. Something that you've said repeatedly that's always stuck with me is absence of evidence does not equal evidence of absence. And I
Absolutely.
really like that because as and have participated in, this is the largest citizen science canine cognition and communication study ever attempted. We have 2 published peer-reviewed papers and another one on the way. And that is evidence. And we didn't have it to begin with. And now we are starting to see it. And I can feel the needle moving a little bit, especially when we're at some of these behavior conferences where a lot of people are really excited about what we're doing or have tried it themselves or have taught their own clients.
It's wild when you think about like in the 80s, people thought that animals couldn't experience pain and they do open like brain surgery on them with no anesthesia, no nothing. They're like,
Human children. It wasn't until
yeah,
the
that
80s that
too.
human children, they learned that human children could experience pain. I was like I was born before that.
It's just wild. It's so
Yeah,
wild. I think
it is
that
wild.
one of the challenges that we're going to be constantly up against is that there's this group of people that want to maintain their hierarchy over animals and are consistently going to move the bar and be like, yeah, like my favorite argument is when people talk about whether or not they're talking. It's obviously we know that they're not using their mouth, and no, they don't know grammar, syntax. He doesn't know a apple but there's not a doubt in my mind that if he presses the outside button, he means to go outside. If he's hitting the fridge car buttons, it's because he wants ice cream. Like communication, it's still functional communication.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I've struggled with this over the llast 6 years too, is that people are like, this isn't language. And I'm like, first of all, language is always a moving bar because humans, as you said, very much want to hold on to this anthropocentric worldview where we are the only animals capable of language. But that's not the interesting question to me. Like the fact that he's communicating with clarity in contextually appropriate ways, that it's strengthening your bond and your relational communication, that's what matters to me. And it seems very evident that's the case.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah. So looking forward, what are your hopes in 5 years, say, for your journey with Bastion in terms of what he's able to communicate, what your relationship looks like, and where all of this is going?
I'm very much inspired by Elsie and her journey. Mary Robinette has been bringing the buttons to the vet with her, and Elsie can very succinctly speak to her own care and cooperative care as far as her ailments go. I know Elsie was born with a deformed leg, and I believe that Mary Robinette has shared recently that the arthritis has progressed a little bit, so she brought her to the vet, and now Elsie can actually speak on her own behalf about how much medicine she wants and when she needs it. And that was always something that I wished Kylie could have done in her care also. And Bastion was a huge advocate for Kylie and would often let us know when he was concerned about her through not just the button use, but how he'd spend time smelling her. Things like that would often lead to us taking her back to the vet and modifications in her care. I guess as Bastion ages, I want to see that same, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, I want Bastion to be able to inform his own care as he gets older too. Bastion was just diagnosed with a heart murmur the other day. He went for his first AKG. It's a low grade heart murmur. I think it's 1B, which is the whole like don't panic mode, just wait and see what happens. Of course, that's not how I approach anything. And I immediately asked the internet for recommendations and was given a tremendous amount of products to research. And he already started supplements 2 days ago. So again, he's not taking any kind of prescribed medication, but he is taking some supplements that are over the counter. And in an ideal world, he'd be able to self-report on how things are going and be able to help me help him in the end. He's only 7, so I hope to have many more years of him around to be able to speak on his own behalf, but that's ultimately the goal.
Absolutely. That's so powerful. I love that. I think that's an admirable goal for any dyad of human and non, for us to be able to equally advocate and have autonomy within how our bodies are being manipulated and the care that we need and the support that we need. I think that's beautiful. Last question. What is the biggest piece of advice that you could offer someone who is interested in getting started with the buttons? I know this is such a broad topic, but if you had to pick one or two things, what would you say to someone who really wants to get going?
I think back to advice that I could have used before I got started, and it was just that I was making it so much bigger than it ever needed to be. I really believed that you needed a certain level of expertise and training, and there was only one way to do it, and I didn't know what I was doing, and I was so afraid of making a mistake and somehow working backwards instead of forwards. And I think that and I've been saying this since the beginning that there is so many, we know so little about this still, even with all the research that is coming up and the studies that are going on, there's so much room for new ideas. And I think that one of the greatest things about the citizen science experiment is that everyone is coming from different backgrounds. You have a background in art and modeling and fashion, and there's people that have backgrounds in education like me, and then there's people that have are dog trainers and people that work in just restaurants or stay-at-home parents. And all of these different perspectives coming together are informing the best courses of action for different animals, for different situations. And I think that taking the first step is just getting the buttons and putting them down and seeing what can happen and remaining open-minded to them. The other thing is too, is I think that people see accounts like yours or mine or Parker's and see 100 buttons laying out and being like, I don't want that on my floor. I can't do that, or I don't have the time for that. And just knowing that you can make such a difference with 4 to 8 to 12 buttons, that you could just have a small corner or a wall of your room with just a few buttons on it, and it can make such a difference too. So Bastion has a little travel board. It's a cassette tape box with 12 buttons in it. And that's literally all he needs when we go away. We don't, granted, there's times where he probably would prefer to ask for other things, but that's really the basics of it. And I think that if everyone saw just how small that was, they could make space in their house for it.
And what are, out of curiosity, what are those 12 buttons?
Yes, no, all done, more, treat, outside walk, help. Did I say home already?
No.
Home, water. Oh gosh. I don't remember what the other two are.
That's okay.
Maybe it might be play. Play might be one of
Yeah.
them. Oh, hello
I
and
love it.
bye. Hello and
Oh,
bye.
yeah. I love that. I think you can say so much with those, just having like allowing him to advocate for basic needs, and then the come and the help, which you can use joint attention. If he says come help and then
Yeah.
you're paying attention to him, he can communicate so many other things with you. I think that's really cool. And that's such a valuable tidbit for people to hear.
He does therapy dog work, and I'll take them to therapy, like the classes. Not sometimes it's a classroom, sometimes it's just like a different environment, but bring the buttons with us, and everyone gets a kick out of it because he'll say hello to them, and then after
Oh,
like 15 minutes, he's asking to go home.
bye.
Bye,
All
home.
done. That's adorable. I love it. I
We
love
had
it. Such
someone here the other.
personality.
I think that's it too, is it really showcases like how much personality they have. I keep thinking about the time that I took him camping and I was like, he had the best time. And then a year later, I take him camping with Buttons and he's just asking where the refrigerator is. He wants to go to bed. He's saying he wants to go home. And so I like completely misread the situation. I thought that he was having the best time a year ago. And now I realize he doesn't like camping that much at all.
That's amazing. I think it's really, like you said earlier, it's really easy, even if we do know a lot about body language, to insert our assumptions. So having this ability to communicate on a deeper level can give us so much valuable information that will improve our relationship and the care that we can give to our animal companions.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me. This has been such a fun conversation. Can we see Bastion?
Yeah. Bastion. I'm sleeping.
Oh my goodness. Oh, hi, honey. Hi, Bastion. Oh my gosh, look at his little face. I need to lay back
He said no,
down.
thank you. He's going
He
back
said
to
no,
sleep.
thank you. What a sweet baby.
Yeah,
So
he's good.
the very last thing before we go, I hear that something very exciting has happened. Do you want to tell us what that is?
Yeah, Bastion, did you know that you are People Magazine's world's cutest rescue puppy?
Yay! My head exploded just then. What? Uh, that is so exciting. Huge congratulations. By the time this comes out, that probably will already have been released. I can't wait to see it.
I'm
So
very
proud.
excited.
Yeah, I'm so proud of the two of you and your journey, and so honored to know you.
Thank you. We
Yeah.
had the photo shoot the other day, and the buttons were a big part of it. I think that was what made him stand out over the other dogs, is the role of Buttons in his rescue story. And the photographer had us move his Buttons downstairs to a bigger space. And initially he goes over and says hello to them. And then about an hour into the photo shoot, they kept trying to move him and like they were like, sit over here. And they were lowering him. They were very good with him. But at a certain point, he said no and became adamant and hitting no. And they graciously said, okay, we're done. And they stopped the photo shoot and gave him a break. So I think
Amazing.
it's amazing that even they were very respectful of his boundaries and his self-determination skills. I
Yeah,
have
that's
similar
super
working on that
impressive.
one. Yeah.
Yeah. Is there anything else that you would like to tell us or that you'd like the audience to hear? Anything important about your journey?
No, just that I think it really brings a different opportunity to bond with your pets. I think a lot of people also see it as an all or nothing thing. It's not this or body language. It's how you can use this in combination of it. And honestly, this taught me so much about body language too. There's so much congruency that I think would have taken me much longer to understand if it hadn't been for the buttons.
Yeah. Yeah. Such an important point. Subscribe.